Hi, everybody. Andrew Champagne alongside JD Fox for a special live edition of Champagne and JD. We're going live for a variety of reasons this week, mostly because we like trying new things. Trying new things is fun, and we've got a couple of fun cards coming up at Keeneland and Oaklawn that we'll preview the late pick four sequences for later on in the show. If you're new to the show, first of all, welcome. Thank you very much for spending part of your Saturday morning with us here. Little reminiscent of when I worked for another network / company / whatever and did something called the pregame Periscope. We're going to be touching on a couple of similar things here, but a couple of topics that we need to talk about before we move on to that late pick four at Keeneland and that late pick four at Oaklawn. Before we go any further, though, that live chat, it's open. And I am monitoring it with my special dual monitor setup, aka an iPad down right below my camera. So if you've got anything that you'd like us to talk about, let us know. I'll monitor the live chat and we'll see what happens as the show goes on. But in the meantime, thanks so much for stopping by. We really appreciate it. JD, I'm excited. Are you excited?
I'm excited, and obviously one of the reasons why I'm excited is we had a great night of Australian racing last night, Andrew.
I know you were haircut. I was going to say, nice haircut there. You got your ears lower a little bit. I gotta, stay hip with the kids, get something a little cleaner. I don't know what we're doing. It's a little too late to stay hip with the kids, JD. I'm just throwing that out there.
With their pumped up kicks. So, yeah, great night last night in Australian racing, and we're going to take a look back at what was the final day, day 2 of the championships at Royal Randwick. We had an absolute classic between two of the best horses in the world as Addeybb and Very Elegant did battle again in the Queen Elizabeth Stakes, a rematch from last year. And in the first time they ran against each other in 2021, Very Elegant was the best. Let's see what happened last night.
So Dalasan in front. Addeybb got to a clear second out the 800 metres. Mugatu's got a great position, followed then by Moonga, followed by Think It Over. Now McDonald peels out on Very Elegant. He starts his run on the mare, and Sir Dragonet sits back and looking to get onto her back now. At the 600 metres, Dalasan in front from Addeybb. She starts a run, Very Elegant, rolling up on the outside of Moonga. Mugatu boxed up on the inside. Sir Dragonet tracks the mare, and Think It Over as the field really starts to bunch. He goes full bore on Addeybb. Very Elegant circled the field, and now Very Elegant moved up to Addeybb. They beat off Dalasan. 2 further back to Sir Dragonet. It's Addeybb. He's fighting. Very Elegant the outside. She's trying her hardest. It's Addeybb and Very Elegant in a ripping finish. Addeybb's lifting. He fends off Very Elegant and Dalasan, and Addeybb goes back to back. The Beast of Britain's done it.
Addeybb with the big victory. So now 4 lifetime battles between Addeybb and Very Elegant, 2 of the consistently top 10 horses in the world in the Longjing world rankings. Another classic, but Addeybb has won 3 of 4 challenges against the mighty mare from New Zealand, Very Elegant. Great race, great finish. What we didn't show, Very Elegant was a little rank going up the backstretch. Seemed to be full of herself pre-race as well. Not her usual tactics. So the great champion mare will come back to battle another day. But, Andrew, there was also a big upset in the Queen of the Turf. And this was an upset-laden card. In North America, the quaddie paid 3 of 4, and it paid $155 per permutation, 3 of 4. So this was a very, very difficult sequence. There is a horse in Australia named Natoya, and every 18 months or so, she just runs a gigantic race, and she's a quirky horse from a quirky trainer. Natoya with the upset of the Queen of the Turf. We're not going to show that. We're going to show, because this horse is famous for, well, really 2 things, and the trainer's a little quirky. So we've got a post-race interview from our friends at 7 Racing in Australia, and then we've got a look at the horse in the shed row post-race. I think you're going to enjoy this, Andrew.
Let's find out what the menu is, Bruce, because Wendy Roach joins me. Wendy, congratulations. Good decision to pay that late entry fee.
I've got to thank Greg White and Jody because I didn't have the money to pay and I forgot to accept her. So a huge thanks, and I think Tommy's got pizza ordered because he wanted it at the gates.
$22,000 late entry fee. Chump change now.
I just don't know what I was doing wrong. I just don't know. So I thought she'd win this week. She's had a strict diet, obviously. She always backs up super, like she honestly does. she's just a different horse. She's more relaxed and hard to gauge now. She's not as naughty, but still quite quirky. But I told Tommy that if you need someone on the gates, and he was next to her last week, and he said she was naughty and she reared. She missed it by 3 lengths, and she was 20 lengths off and got beat 4.3.
So you came here very confident. We've
Confident
really,
but nervous.
We've really enjoyed the journey that you've had in regards to what she's...
Well, there's pink champagne in the fridge, I can tell you.
You came here confident there.
No, but I've got to stick by it. I told 3 people that they said if she wins after the swab, will she go to the bar? And I said she'll probably outdrink everyone.
That's right. Well, maybe it's your shout, Wendy. I might hang out with you.
No, she'll go in there and drink everyone under the table.
Now, tell me, I think she was down in the chairman's sale to be sold as
Yeah,
a
she won't be sold now.
No, that's not. You keep on with her, please.
Yeah. She'll probably go... I've got to ring up Godolphin and see if she can go to Exceed and Excel. She'll probably go to the Hollandale and then the BTC Cup and then off to Exceed and Excel.
This girl's changed your life?
Yeah, but I'll be glad when she's gone because I tell you what, she's a handful.
Well, but we love hanging out with you.
Oh, true, but I tell you what, she costs a lot in champagne and pizza.
You enjoy and spend wisely.
Thank you. That's her third piece. That's 4 pieces, 5 pieces. You put the drink in, and then Moish and
Natoya, just like after the Doncaster Mile in 2019, getting her pizza and champagne, Andrew, post-race.
I'm so confused.
So, Natoya, there was some important stuff there. So, obviously, Exceed and Excel, who hopefully wants to breed. I mean, the connections want to breed to the best stallion in Australia right away, but that takes a call to Godolphin, and you got to do some wrangling there. So they're already kind of in action there. I'm glad you're confused, but that was incredible, and that was incredible television, and I hope everybody stuck through it. So now we've got some breaking Derby news, and I kind of also want to take a different tact with the Derby conversation, but we'll go ahead and move to our Derby Trail segment here. Obviously, there's something on the screen, but I created this before Concert Tour has been announced that we'll be bypassing the Kentucky Derby, Andrew. I know you've got some thoughts, some of them later, but very interested to see Concert Tour, who I still think was going to take a lot of money, not being in the Derby.
Okay. First of all, Essential Quality is not going to be odds on. It's going to be a 20-horse field. I do think his price took a gigantic hit with the news that came out today that Concert Tour will skip the Kentucky Derby and await the Preakness. Okay. If you came here waiting for me to lose it, I might. It might happen right here. I was going to save it for the final thought segment. I'm not going to. I need to say this right now. I miss when it was okay for horses to lose. I miss when it was okay for a horse to run third in a $1 million grade 1 race. I miss when that was an acceptable result. Now we look for reasons to discredit those efforts. Owners don't want to lose. Trainers are sometimes held to quotas by those owners. And if they don't win X amount of races, you're not going to get horses from that owner. Hi, Ken Ramsey. How you doing? Now,
Hi, Kitty.
The fact that Concert Tour went from a possible Kentucky Derby favorite, and this is not an exaggeration. We were talking about this horse possibly being a 2-1, 5-2 favorite if he ran the way we thought he would in the Arkansas Derby. To we're skipping the Derby and awaiting the Preakness because he ran third. Now, if there's some underlying physical issue, that's another story. If this horse is happy, healthy, and sound, you run him. I don't get this. I don't get this from a number of different perspectives. I don't get how this benefits the game. I don't get how this benefits the breed, because now we're talking about people coming out of the woodwork and saying, oh, it's a 3-week turnaround and 3 weeks is too quick, then change the breed. 3 weeks used to be the standard. It's not anymore because horses are bred for whatever the hell brilliance is. If anyone out there can define brilliance for me in a succinct fashion, let me know and do it. I'm sick of this shit. I'm sick of it. I am sick of losing talented horses because they can't handle running more than once every couple of months. This game needs stars. We're not producing those stars. And those stars, when they come around once in a jillion years, they're not running more than a handful of times. How are we expected to use the athletes in this game to generate new fans for this game if those athletes don't run? This is backwards. I hate every bit of this. I know there are people out there watching that are not necessarily fans of Bob Baffert for any number of reasons. That's a different conversation. This is an industry-wide problem. This is something that needs to be fixed. It's not going to get fixed with the abolition of LASIX. LASIX is a problem. It is not the problem. Put your heads together, industry decision makers. Get this done. This is horrible. This is nonsense. I hate every bit of this. There is not a single positive because if you like Concert Tour, you're not going to get a chance to bet him in the Derby. You're going to have to bet him at half the price in the Preakness with a shorter field. And if you liked Essential Quality, yeah, you probably still like Essential Quality, but instead of getting 3-1, 7-2, you're going to get 9-5, 2-1, maybe, because now he looks like a standout. There's no way this doesn't stink. I couldn't wait until the final thought segment to get this off my chest. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it.
Really, we cover Australia here, and we're talking about horses that ran last night in some of the biggest group stage races exist. Ran the previous week.
Yep.
Or ran at worst 14 days prior.
Yep.
And they run, some of these horses run 10, 12 races a year, and they're bred to. Now, obviously, I think turf racing versus dirt racing, I mean, there's some discussion there in terms of longevity of breed and, joint taxing and all those fun conversations that everybody loves to hear about on a handicapping show. But really, there is something truly wrong here. And we've come from a place where everybody wanted to get in the Derby and did everything they could to get in the Derby, to where now we're down to what? I think there's 4 horses that qualify if, basically outside of the field right now. I think there's a pool of 24 horses with the point system that are available to run in the Derby.
Yeah,
it's nuts.
And we don't know. Nuts. And we don't know yet, by the way, if Rombauer will run in the Derby. This is a different story because Rombauer has an all expenses paid berth to the Preakness, and Rombauer would be a pretty big price in the Kentucky Derby, though I still think he wins the Belmont. Thrown that out there months ago, still on that train. It's a different story, though, because you're not talking about scratching one of the favorites. You're talking about a horse that was 10 lengths behind Essential Quality last time out, and maybe if all goes well in the Kentucky Derby, clunks up for a piece of it when 2 weeks later he has a free spot in the starting gate for the Preakness, which, again, shorter field, potentially a better chance from an ROI perspective there. That's a little different than what we're seeing with Concert Tour, what we're seeing with some others. The fact that we're 2 weeks out from the Kentucky Derby and we still have no idea who's going to run in the race, it's interesting in some respects. It's very troubling in others.
And that's where I'm going back to the initial question that I posed here for the segment. And this was going to be my thoughts even before Concert Tour came out of the Derby. I'm seeing Essential Quality like 7-5 right now, and if we have another defection of a mid-range horse, I think we're looking at having to think about taking Essential Quality at odds on in the Derby, and that's also scary. I mean, just think of that statement in general. Outside of an absolute world beater in Derby history, I mean, the one thing everybody has always said about the Kentucky Derby is, hey, it's a great betting race. Your favorite's going to be 4-1. Those days are long gone, and it's part of the issue that I think you touched on, Andrew.
Well, I don't think Essential Quality is going to be quite that low because The Kentucky Derby, A, is a 20-horse field, so there's a lot of money that can go a lot of different directions. And B, there's a lot of dumb money. See also my boy Jack going from 20-1 on the morning line to 5-1 most of the betting because everybody knew somebody named Jack and everybody plunked their $2 down on it. I'm just saying, I don't think Essential Quality is going to be odds on. I don't think he's going to be close to that. 2-1 seems reasonable. 5-2, maybe if we're lucky. He's going to be a pretty short price by Kentucky Derby standards, especially given the news that came out about Concert Tour. Now, there are other horses that are going to take some money. Rock Your World is a buzz horse after winning the Santa Anita Derby. Known Agenda comes in for Todd Pletcher after his win in the Florida Derby. Those two are both going to be single digits. They're going to take some money. Beyond those three, you're not getting 72-1 again. You might get 40. You might get 40.
I might. And while at the time I said I don't think there's a chance I take this horse again until the Belmont.
You've got to at least throw a couple of bucks on him, right?
I think given the nature of this race breaking down, who knows?
Yeah. There's no reason not to at least have like a $2 win bet on the horse just in case something bizarre happens again. Because if that horse wins and you don't have it, this podcast might get canceled because you might quit horse racing. I'm just throwing it out there. For the sake of this podcast and for the sake of your continued interest in horse racing, you need to at least throw a couple of bucks on this horse.
We'll see how the bankroll's doing. Luckily, it's the first Saturday in May, and it's literally the first day in May. Which
JD, if you don't have
no, it's budget reset day is what I'm saying. So
okay. Well,
you budget your wagering through a month, and May 1st, beginning of a month, the budget is wide open.
Budget? What's a budget? Budget? I don't know.
Hey,
anyway,
there's going to be a budget later on in the show. We're going to have a show first on one of the Pick 4 tickets. Just let you know.
First, huh? Okay. All right. Now, mind you, as we head into our handicapping doubleheader, JD has seen my tickets. I have not seen his. So this is going to be pretty fascinating as far as that goes. Once again, that live chat is open on YouTube. If you'd like to submit any questions, any comments, we'll address those in the final thoughts segment or as they come up in the discussion of the late Pick 4 at both Keeneland and Oaklawn. Now, we're going to talk about Keeneland first. Remember, first post at Keeneland is coming up about 45 minutes from right now as we're recording. So get your bets in, get your stable duel lineups in if you play that. However, we're going to concentrate now on the late Pick 4, which begins in race number 7 on the 10-race program, 4:24 p.m. Eastern Time, 1:24 for those of you on the West Coast. And we start things off with a big field going 5.5 furlongs on the lawn. This one for fillies and mares, and it's a good betting race. Your favorite number 5, Ready for Change. This one's interesting because it's a turf sprint. This horse has been entered to run on turf twice. Both races have been rained off the turf, finally gets on the turf. And if this horse was, say, 6-1, 8-1, I would love this horse. And I think she's going to drift up off of that 3-1 morning line simply because there are some big name barns in here with some contenders, JD.
Yeah, there are. And there's a lot of horses shipping in to try the Keeneland surface for the first time 2 days away from closing day. Closing day, of course, being Sunday. So very, very interesting to see some shippers here. And we're going, as I think will be the case today, in some opposite directions. Normally, Andrew knows my ticket. I did not show him my ticket intentionally because I thought for the live show, this would make for some interesting back and forth and some chatter here. So Andrew going 4 deep. I'm going 4 deep. We share one horse. Go, Andrew.
Well, we share my top pick, so that's a plus. My top selection is number 8, Violenza, goes second off the bench for Ian Wilkes, whose horses tend to need a race off of a long break. But all Violenza did last time out was run second, beaten just a half length, going 5 furlongs in 54-3. Now, Gulfstream Park's turf course can play very, very fast. In past years, that might be a deterrent. Keeneland's turf course has gotten a little bit quicker. I think, over the last couple of years to where you can ship in from Gulfstream Park. And I think that form will carry over, at least in some form or fashion. Chris Landeros rides. Landeros a little bit cold on the meat, but Landeros rode this horse to a couple of victories last summer at Ellis Park and at Kentucky Downs. 10-1 on the morning line. I think we're going to get it. And I think this is a case where you might be able to get a price very early in the sequence. I'm going to use a couple other perceived logical horses in here. Number 2, Brooke Marie, just needed that race off of a very long layoff last time out at Turfway Park. And that race came up pretty quick. They went 6 furlongs and 109-1 on the synthetic. That's flying. Big rider switched to Luis Saez for trainer Jonathan Thomas, who has a pretty small barn but does great work with the runners he sends out. I'm using Ready for Change. This is a turf pedigree top and bottom. Anytime you see More Than Ready, you immediately think turf. Had to use that horse. Also had to use number 6, Notorious RBG. Tremendous name, by the way. Whoever named that horse, that was pretty darn cool. But this is a horse that I think will benefit from a fast pace and may come running late beneath Joel Rosario. And one thing we didn't talk about in our Kentucky Derby conversation, Joel Rosario's camp screwed up. Joel Rosario was waiting on a decision about Concert Tour and whether or not Concert Tour was going to go. And in the interim, his number 2 option was Hot Rod Charlie. Those connections did not wait. They named Flavian Pratt. So Joel Rosario now without a mount, as of right now, one would have to think that's going to change heading into the Kentucky Derby. But going into the 7th at Keeneland, 2, 5, 6, and 8 for me. JD, we don't agree on much, but we agree on my top selection, and that's something.
And it's my top selection too.
Oh,
so yeah. I know.
Much for your carefully laid plan of, I'm a go different. Wait, he's the top. Oh, God.
Yeah, no, but the rest of the horses here, starting with the 7 more, obviously ran at Sam Houston last time out, but those Sam Houston turf sprints have come back very, very strong from a number standpoint, and the few runners that have already moved on from Sam Houston and have found other circuits have been incredibly competitive. So I don't think you can throw that one out. The horse has some good figures on the turf at Churchill as well. Obviously, the wins have come on dirt at Indiana Grand and at Fairgrounds, but some good performances on the turf. Just missed last time out. Gets the biscuit, Adam Beschizza. Really like that for the Brett Calhoun stable. And talk about the O2 horses on my ticket quickly. Strong Odor has a strong odor to me in this race. I look at this pedigree and I say, this is a synthetic pedigree up and down. It makes sense that 5 of this horse's 7 starts are synthetic. What is the Maker Barn doing here? They must know something. There must be something with this horse that they're saying, hey, I've got options on synthetic. If I wait a little bit, maybe they were looking to ship to Woodbine, and this is just a placement horse. But I do think this might be a sneaky turf play. The turf pedigree is a little suspect, but I trust Mike Maker spotting the horses, and I think the 6-1 morning line shows that. I think if it's any other trainer there with a synthetic pedigree and a horse that's only run on synthetic and dirt in this tough and allowance field, I think the horse is 15-1. So had to include on the ticket. And then the final horse on the outside, Song River, coming off of yet another horse coming off of an allowance victory at Gulfstream Park over 5 furlongs, has ran well at Gulfstream. Has a good run at Indiana Grand, but basically has run those 2 turf courses and also ran at the old Calder course, which if you could run over that course, you can run over anything, sand, glass, rocks, tapeta, anything. So I think Song River, I think it would have a better shot if it wasn't drawn so far outside, but I am guessing here that I think the inside horses are going to go super fast, and I'm actually liking the outside horses in a turf sprint. Am I likely crazy? Yes, but I am 7, 8, 9, 10.
And I'm 2, 5, 6, and 8. So we just need to get the 8 home, and we're good to go heading into race number 8. Now, race number 8 is an allowance optional claiming event, and this one came up pretty salty for the level. This is a stakes quality group. It features the return of an intriguing horse in the form of number 3, South Bend, who danced a lot of dances in 2020. Very busy campaign. Started out for the Stanley Huff barn, went to the barn of Bill Mott ahead of the Travers and the Kentucky Derby, but as the great Harvey Pack once said a lot, never bet a horse as the favorite to do something it's never done before. JD, find me a win for South Bend going 2 turns.
There isn't one, Andrew.
You can't find it. Find me a win in the last year.
The horse it's only ran 3 times in the last year, and no, nothing there.
Well, not quite the last year and a half, since the start of 2020. So it's a case where this horse to me screams of either A, money burner, or B, this is not the goal, needs a race. So with that in mind, I'm going against South Bend, 5-2 on the morning line. I think South Bend comes down a little bit. We're both too deep. We agree on one runner, and I knew you were going to use this horse. I was waiting for it. Mighty Heart is a horse that won the Queen's Plate and the Prince of Wales last year. Not my top selection. I picked that one second. My top pick is number 7 Top Seed, who comes in off of a long layoff for Shug McGahee, whose runners tend to be ready off of that kind of a break. You look at the DRF stats, 25% with a positive ROI. That's excellent. This horse has run one poor race to this point in his career. No poor races going 2 turns. In fact, 2 starts ago, he ran second behind a horse we're going to talk about later in the form of Fearless, who contests the Oaklawn handicap. Last time we saw him, won by a neck at Churchill Downs at this distance with an 85 Beyer speed figure, has been working steadily at Payson Park. Shug McGahee does not work his horses fast. I am not alarmed by the fact that the times are a little on the slow side. I think John Velasquez will have plenty of options with this one, and I think Top Seed will be ready to fire. If he's not, I'll gamble that Mighty Heart is ready to fire, and that one has been working very quickly for trainer Josie Carroll ahead of his 4-year-old debut. But I'm trying to beat South Bend in here. I think there's some value in going against that one. I'm using the second and third choices in here, 6-7, 7-6, however you want to call it. JD, your thoughts?
Well, obviously, I shouldn't say like obviously, but being a Woodbine
No, it's
guy,
obvious at this point, JD. It's obvious. You ought to have a Canadian flag in the background. You ought to have maple syrup. There should be a hockey stick somewhere. I'm just throwing that out there. And by the way, kidding aside, shout out to our friends at Woodbine. They're going through a situation that could best be described as ridiculous, and I'll leave it at that because otherwise we'll go off on an insane tangent that won't end well for either of us. But JD, continue.
So, horse of the year in Canada, and champion 3-year-old. I mean, the only thing that was done wrong is still a questionable ride, and I think a ride that he's been on the record of regretting of Daisuke Fukumoto in the Breeders' Stakes, going out with a rabbit. I know you're not a Timeform US guy. I've never seen this in my life. Well, I'm saying in terms of like every day using it as your handicapping for like
That's
the figures.
Fair. I just want it known. Timeform US is a really good tool.
For a 1.5-mile race, the opening speed figure for that race was 228. I've never seen anything higher than like a 160, and that's for like a turf sprint.
Yeah.
That was the fastest in a 1.5-mile race. I mean, I cannot even begin to describe to you just how weird that race was, because they ran 47-2 for the first half in a 1.5-mile race. That's
pretty quick. Also, that turf course had some give in it too.
Yeah, that was a good listed turf course that day. So, the adjusted fractions that you can get on Timeform, I'm not going to say them here, but they were even bigger. So, really came back. Ontario Derby, that was a disappointing effort, losing to Field Pass, but again, kind of had spent there. The Canadian Triple Crown got kind of mashed around a little bit in the schedule, just like the American Triple Crown did. And the difference with the Canadian Triple Crown is it's over 3 different surfaces. So this is a horse that has won on synthetic, has won on dirt, and tried to win on turf and couldn't. But very, very strong. Mighty Heart has a Mighty Heart. Another one-eyed horse. So shout out to Jeremy Balin, who keeps track of all of those for us. Thanks, Jeremy.
President of the Patch Fan Club, Jeremy Balin. So send all of your fan letters over to him.
And the other horse I'm using is Royal Mesa. Again, I'm suspect. I want to see South Bend run. South Bend could very well beat us all here. I just can't. I can't take the price on coming back off of that long layoff without a win. Obviously, from a class perspective, best horse in the field. And then you look at, okay, why on earth, JD, are you taking Royal Mesa?
Well, why indeed?
Recency. has been involved, has ran some good numbers. This is a softer field than what Royal Mesa has been finishing second against. So hopefully this horse can get off the hanger and pick up the win. Royal Mesa is actually my top choice here, and Mighty Heart is my second choice as we move on to race number 9, the Grade 2 Elkhorn Stakes. And really, I think a lot of different directions that you can go here in this race, and I'm going pretty deep because you've got a great mix of form, trying to figure out what horse from what other track is going to come in and run well here. Cross Border is a scratch. The 1 and the 5, Monarch's Glen, also a scratch. So those are updates here that we don't have on our graphics, unfortunately, but 1 and 5 are scratched in this spot. Say the Word, 7-2 on the morning line. Red Knight, the 3-1 morning line favorite, all coming from different circuits, all coming from different directions. And Andrew, we both say go deep here, and we actually land on some similar horses.
Yeah, and I got to tell you, what do the 2 scratched horses have in common?
Maker Barn.
Yes. Who else does Mike Maker train?
Mike Maker has another horse named Tide of the Sea in this race.
Who we both have, and who hit me as the most likely speed in the race. I think Tide of the Sea now has a big, big shot. I think Tide of the Sea looks a lot more imposing now than he did when we initially constructed these tickets. I did not like Cross Border in here. Cross Border is a very nice horse. I'm partial to New York breds. I am one, and Cross Border has done a lot. I just don't think he's a 1.5 mile type horse. I think he's best going 1.25 miles, 1.25 mile 3/16, that sort of trip. And I thought 1.5 miles was actually a prime opportunity to bet against that horse. But now that Cross Border is out, I think Tide of the Sea is going to go from 4-1 to about 2-1, 5-2. I think that's probably what you're going to get, and for good reason. He was my reluctant top pick when I handicapped last night. I'm a lot less reluctant now, and I may well play a grid-structured ticket and use Tide of the Sea as a lone A. That's how much confidence I now have in that horse, and that's one of the benefits of doing this show live is the ability to sort of adjust as you go. Now, there are a couple of other good horses in here. Number 2, Say the Word, is a 1.5 mile horse. He is not a 1.25 mile horse. He is not a 1 mile 3/16 horse. Say the Word wants every bit of ground he can possibly get. I had to at least throw that horse in, and maybe Say the Word takes a little bit of money. Just the lack of a marquee win outside of Woodbine hurts him a little bit. I think this is a grade 2 race on paper, but given how lousy the American turf contingent is, you can argue that these are some of the better turf horses that we're going to see all year long going a distance of ground. I also threw in a price in the form of number 7, North Dakota. I'm tossing the Pegasus entirely, and if North Dakota gets a little bit more pace than we think he's going to get, he'll come running late. I love how John Velasquez has been riding. He does not get horses beat with his rides. He will put horses in the best possible position. That's what he's been doing most of the meet, and he's been winning at 22%. I'll also throw in number 10, Red Knight, who draws the far outside, ultra consistent kind of horse. This is a horse that won the Sycamore at this route of ground last fall, and I think is one you need to consider, even given the long layoff. But, my goodness, after those scratches, doesn't Tide of the Sea look much, much better to you?
Yeah, Tide of the Sea was going to be my top selection.
You said we weren't going to agree. You said our tickets were going to be different. We've agreed on 2 top selections through 3 races, and in the other race where we went too deep, we have a horse in common.
You haven't seen the Oaklawn ticket yet.
False advertising. Continue.
I do want to talk a little bit about Epic Bromance here. On paper, this horse should not want a 1.5 miles. No way, no how. On the bottom side, top side, Kitten's Joy. I mean, yeah, sure, of course. Bottom side, there's actually a lot of turf sprint there. Was surprised that this horse wanted the 1 3/8 last time at Gulfstream, but it seemed to be a wake-up call. It is a head scratcher on paper, and this horse could take an early lead and just cruise. So this type of horse with a wake up, light bulb angles don't necessarily always have to be after wins. Sometimes they're after a distance, a change in scenery, a change in ground. There's lots of things that can wake a horse up. And that 1 3/8 race, if you haven't watched it from May 19th, I suggest before putting in a ticket, you take a look at that horse and how comfortable that horse looked going that distance, and it's a stark contrast to some of the previous races, including the allowance event on November 25th, where the horse lost to Monarch's Glen, who was scratched in this race by 17.5 lengths. It's a completely different horse on the March 19th effort. So Epic Bromance have to include. And then, I just said I'm a Woodbine guy. I'm an Ontario bred guy. I don't like Say the Word here.
Happy I really think down for that.
I really think that this horse runs well at Woodbine, has, a good win at Saratoga, but I haven't seen it. The San Luis Rey, I don't see any excuses in that run. That was definitely not the best United that we've seen by far. And Say the Word had every reason to finish off United in the stretch there and didn't. That's concerning for me when a horse is going to be back. And I think Say the Word's going to be back a little further even today than in previous mile-and-a-half efforts. So I'm not huge on Say the Word here, and I've kicked Say the Word off the ticket. So I'm 4 deep, just like Andrew. We share 3 horses. I'm including the 4. Andrew's including the 2. And a very interesting nightcap at Keeneland.
Indeed. This is an optional claiming event. Pretty big field signed on for this one, and we do we've got a couple of horses that I believe are going to be on another page of graphics in here, but the morning line favorite is a horse named Finnegan. Finnegan, earlier in his career, way back in the mid-20 teens, was one of the horses that Wesley Ward sent to Royal Ascot. That is how much potential Finnegan had. And if that dam looks familiar, it's a horse named Untouched Talent, who also threw a little horse named Bodemeister, who did a lot of damage in those Triple Crown races a bunch of years ago. Once again, you keep saying we're totally different. We've got a horse in common. However, you didn't use my top selection and a horse that I almost singled, and that's number 3, Lupaloo, who I think hits me as the controlling speed in this race, a horse that won at this route of ground back in the fall here at Keeneland. I think Mitch Merle has a very simple set of instructions from trainer Chris Hartman. Go. That's it. That's all. Just go. And I think Lupaloo is going to go as fast as he can for as long as he can. But the more I looked at this race, the more I realized I had to use number 8, High Five Cotton. Now, High Five Cotton hasn't won in a little while, won 3 in a row late last year, but has run well in a couple of starts without winning, including a good second at the Beard Course at Keeneland, that quirky little route that's just a little longer than 7 furlongs. And I think that's a little too long for what he wants to do. I think he's a 6 furlong horse. I thought he ran well that day despite losing. Luis Saez sees fit to ride back for a trainer that's hit at a 22% clip across all circuits this year. $32 ticket for me, 4x2 by 4x2. In fact, JD, you have a very similar structure, and there are ways we can both hit this thing. So I'm pretty encouraged.
My top pick in this race is Celtic Mischief. The 7 horse, 20-1 on the morning line. Now, you mentioned you think Lupaloo is the controlling speed in this race. I think Lupaloo has gotten a lot of races where it's been a slow pace and basically Lupaloo's been gifted the lead. I think Celtic Mischief might be the fastest horse in this race, and I do think 6 furlongs and the slight cutback off of Turfway, which I think what we've learned about the new surface at Turfway is a very taxing surface. So I'm thinking this horse is going to be revved up and ready to go. The dirt races are good. Broke the maiden at Ellis Park going 5.5. Ran a good race at Matineer in the slop back in December on the dirt before the 4 races at Turfway. I do think Celtic Mischief is going to come down from that morning line. I also want to update scratches here. So the 2 Testy Kitten is out. The 13 Big Cooley is out. So the one we had a mix up on the graphics. What was listed as the 14 North Elkhorn is actually the 1A is in. So we have a combined entry now of My Girl Rocket, the 1, and North Elkhorn, the 1A, who will be breaking all the way from the outside in this race. So you'll have bookends of the field at 30-1 on the morning line if you bet the one entry. And I think you mentioned all the points on High Five Cotton. You look back on that form, you dig a little bit, and into last year, very, very good. I think getting Sias back aboard is important here, and I think the cutback in distance is important because that about 7 furlong race, it changes every day. Looking back to where they started, looking at that field, I think that was the longest one of those about 7 furlongs that we've seen as well. And obviously, Craig Milkowski and some of the people that have been following that and keeping track of them probably have a better idea. But from where they started, where the gate physically was, and I love all of these caveats I have to give, that was a very long about 7 furlong race. So I think the cutback to 6 is big on High Five Cotton. $32 as well, 4x2 by 4x2. And $32 play for both of us. We both can hit. Kind of crazy.
Yeah, I mean, we actually have a surprising amount of common ground for those of you that regularly watch this show. Usually that does not happen. Now, a reminder, if you're watching this live, Keeneland's first post in about 20 minutes. I actually was looking down to finish punching in my stable duel entry for today. I'm in a $10 contest there, so fingers, toes, and if I'd cross my eyes, but I don't want to look quite as, goofy as I usually do. So you know what we're going to do? We're going to take a look at the late pick 4 at Oaklawn Park, which has a tremendous card today, a number of some of the best horses in training, headlined by a marquee matchup between Monomoy Girl and Swiss Skydiver. This is going to be a lot of fun. I've got a $30 late pick 4 ticket that starts in race number 9 on the 12 race program. And we'll kick things off with a $1 million race. That sounds pretty good, right? So it's the Grade 2 Oaklawn Handicap. We've got a field of 8 signed on. It's a good betting race, I think, because I am not sold on number 2 Express Train. I think Express Train is running in the wrong races for the right reasons. I think Express Train is far better going one turn, but he's been going 2 turns because the races at Santa Anita have a lot of money to him. And because the West Coast Handicap Division is as awful as I have ever seen it, because Charlatan went to Saudi Arabia, hasn't quite come back yet, and a number of other horses just haven't gotten on the circuit. So for me personally, JD, I'm going against Express Train in here, despite the fact that I like the horse a fair bit as from an ability standpoint, and I really, really, really hope they run this horse in the Met Mile, because I think that hits the horse right between the eyes. I'm going 4 deep in an attempt to beat the favorite. So this is a really cool betting race with a couple of really cool horses. My top selection is from the Todd Pletcher barn. I am, of course, referring to a horse named Fearless, who took a long, long time to get right. But once they got him right, JD, he has turned into a really good prospect. He's 7-2 on the morning line. Maybe he comes down from that just a little bit, but if you look at his last race in the Gulfstream Park Mile, he beat a couple of really good horses that day. Performer was no slouch. Unfortunately, he has since been retired. He's shown a little bit more tactical speed that day, too, because in a couple of his more recent efforts before that, he was rating very far back and had to come with a sweeping late move. I think Fearless will be up a little bit closer to the pace. The back-to-back bullet workouts at Palm Beach Downs, to me, reek of confidence. I think Fearless is very well met. Also going to use number 1 Silver State, who's won 4 in a row. Nothing wrong there. I'll use Owendale, who has danced in a lot of big dances and hasn't run a bad race in a really long time. And I'll also use a little bit of a bigger price in the form of number 4 Warriors Charge, who is another that hasn't won in a while, but loves Oaklawn Park. This is a horse that in 7 starts over this track has never been worse than 3rd, and one of his 3 wins came in the Grade 3 Razorback last year. So for me, 1, 3, 4, and 6. JD, you've at least used Fearless, so I can't knock that too much.
What we've seen at this division this year at Oaklawn Park so far is everybody wants to get up and be a length or 2 near the pace, and then one horse out finishes the rest of them. So one thing you'll notice, I have the 2 outside horses that have not been barn at Oaklawn Park this year, the 2 Express Train and the 3 Fearless. And they're both horses that can have tactical speed, but can also sit back and rate. And I think that's going to be the key to this one. The one race that Fearless has run at Oaklawn, nearly won, finished second in an allowance event last year, was 18 lengths back at first call.
I remember that race. Dumpf was a ridiculous price. I think that horse was like 45-1.
So I think the Oaklawn horses are going to battle up front, and we're going to see the 2 and the 3, the 2 outsiders, sit back, make one move, and I think they finish first and second in this race. That's my opinion. Obviously, you've got some thoughts on Express Train about the talent out on the West Coast, but Express Train's been running mighty consistent numbers, mighty consistent workouts, mighty consistent.
I just think he's better going one turn. That's all. And I can't take 5-2 on a one-turn horse going 2 turns against 2-turn horses. On ability, he's probably good enough to win this race. From a wagering standpoint, I just think 5-2 is a bad bet. That's all.
All right, and we're going to move on to leg 2, and trust me, my ticket's going to start getting interesting here.
Really quickly, neither of us wrestling fans used the 7-horse in here?
No.
Now, on this day, we see clearly that Rated R Superstar is an outsider. And if you got that reference, you're watching the correct show.
I mean, if Rated R Superstar was not going to win last time, which I still do not know how Rated R Superstar did not beat Silver State. I watched that film probably 8 times that day, and I probably watched it 10 times this week, figuring out how this horse lost. I am as big a fan of the 8-year-old gelding as possible. I've been up and down with Rated R Superstar because that's been the career. Rated R Superstar millionaire, but I see him as an outsider here. So we move on to the second leg, race number 10, allowance optional claimers. Going 6 furlongs, 4-year-olds and up. We have a field of 9 and a very Andrew-centric horse, Champagne on Me, at 8-1 on the morning line out of the 2-hole. The favorite in this race is Oklahoma's favorite son, Welder. And Welder 2-1 on the morning line. Drum roll, please. Yeah.
Okay, I need to preface this. Welder is one of my favorite horses in training. He is one of the coolest horses around. He always fires. They have found what he wants to do, and they let him do it. This is a horse that has been around forever. This is a horse that gains a following. Gee, if a horse like that can gain a following, how come we can't have grade 1 horses that gain followings? Oh, wait, they don't run anymore. Just throwing that out there. Little callback to my rant earlier about Concert Tour.
Do you know the last time Welder won outside of the state of Oklahoma, Andrew?
I don't.
It was June 15th, 2016, and it was the only time he did it. It was an allowance condition at my old stomping grounds, Prairie Meadows.
And to be fair, last July he ran a very good second in a stakes race at Prairie Meadows. It's not like he hasn't run well outside of Oklahoma.
1 for 7 lifetime.
My hesitations are twofold. One, the layoff's a little bit of a concern. Also, this is a really good race. This is a race that could very easily be a stakes race on a number of different circuits. And Welder is going to be lower than his 2-1 morning line, I think, because he's Welder. He's going to have fans that put money on him. I think he's going to go down to about the 3-2, 7-5 range. I can't bet him at that price. Not off of a layoff, not as an 8-year-old, not against this group, a group that I think is a stakes quality group. And if you're telling me that Welder is going to be 7-5 and Engage, horse number 6 in the program, is going to be 4-1, sign me up. Engage comes out of the hot springs. You know who was running in the hot springs? Horses that you might have heard of. Horses like CZ Rocket, horses like Whitmore, horses like Flagstaff. I think
CZ Rocket, who somebody here singled last week, huh?
Yeah, he did. Really nice. Yeah, even though all of our tickets went up in smoke when Concert Tour ran 3rd. Yeah, sorry about that, Chief. So Engage to me hits me as the most likely winner even though he hasn't won in quite a while, he's been running against really good horses. Third off the bench here, I'm willing to throw the Hot Springs out because he was very close to a very fast pace that day. And that's not what Engage wants to do. Engage wants to sit back and make one run. I think it's telling that there's been a rider change that's been made. Engage is my top pick. I'll also throw in number 5, 7 Nation Army, who ran second in the King Cotton 2 starts ago. And I'll also throw in a little bit of a price in the form of number 9, Scrutinizer. I'm throwing the last race
scratched.
out. Scrutinizer scratched? Okay.
Yes.
Cheaper
Just
ticket.
that now.
Cheaper ticket then. Okay. 5 and 6 for me in race number 10 with number 9, Scrutinizer, a late scratch. So trying to beat Welder by going too deep, using the 2 horses outside of him. And you know what? If Welder beats me, I'm fine with that. If you're going to lose to a horse, you want to lose to a horse like Welder, who always shows up seemingly. I just think his usual effort might not be good enough here. And again, at his likely price, and with me singling what's likely going to be a very heavy favorite later on in the sequence, I need to find value somewhere. I think you can find value with either 7 Nation Army or Engage. And JD, you agree with me on this.
Obviously, the 4-year-old version of Engage is 1 to 5 in this field and crushes. That's a horse.
I don't know about 1 to 5, but like even money, sure.
And I think we see glimpses of it. I like Santana's ride last time at Oaklawn, which was 2 back in the third place effort, beating the length and the allowance condition that day. Nuclear Option's a good horse. Mucho's a good horse. I think we're seeing Engage still on the track, and Engage is still on the track for a reason. I mean, Engage is intact and has a good pedigree and has made a decent amount of money and could go off to stud anytime now. There's a reason Asmussen has kept Engage in training and brought Engage back after the 2020 layoff, just laid off the entire year until, basically September. Took a lot of time off and then, came back and lost to Firenze Fire. I'm not going to go on a rant about Firenze Fire, I promise. But I do think Engage can be tactical in this spot. I think Engage can sit third, 1 move. And I don't think Welder, who probably inherits the pace given the scratches, I don't think Welder has seen a horse the size and skill of Engage come up on the outside. So it's going to be a fun race. Obviously, you're talking to 2 of the biggest Welder fans of the world, and Dave Champagne's probably the biggest Welder fan. So
he's up there.
Shout out to him.
Really quick, you said scratches plural. Is anybody else out besides the 9?
1 and 3.
Okay, yeah. Then in that case, Welder probably does inherit the early lead, although I think 7 Nation Army's got a little bit of speed, and I don't think Full Authority or Hot Shot Kid will be too far back. I think they're going to go early.
Yeah, but I definitely think Town Champ and Fire Crow were the 2 horses that you thought immediately were
Town Champ for sure. He wasn't going to last, but he was going to go as fast as he could for as long as he could. That's unfortunate, and with those 2 scratches, Welder goes from 2 to 1. He's going to be odds on, I think.
Yeah, and Andrew might rethink his ticket, and we'll post them before post time. I think we might see Welder. I think we might see Welder slide back into that ticket, slide back into those DMs, Andrew.
What I will do is, you get, let's see, that's down to, it does affect the value of my ticket pretty considerably. So we'll talk a little bit more about that once we get to race number 12. But we do not want to rush past race number 11. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, this is the main event of the Saturday racing program across the country. This is the Grade 1 Apple Blossom Handicap, a 6-horse field. 2 of them are champions. You get Swiss Skydiver. You get Monomoy Girl. You get a couple other horses that can run a little bit, including number 3, Latruska, who I think is going to be the early pace setter, and maybe that one goes as fast as she can for as long as she can. But in a race like this, where there are 2 horses that appear to lay over the rest of the field, a lot of times you just need to take one and move on. JD, I feel like a lot of people are just conveniently forgetting Swiss Skydiver ran in the Breeders' Cup Distaff last year. Swiss Skydiver had a horrible start. I concede that. Is that the best version of Swiss Skydiver we've ever seen? Absolutely not. But it happened. You can't just throw a line, completely throw that, especially because The horse that won that race impressively is back. She's as good as she was last year, and to me, is the horse to beat. I'm riding with Monomoy Girl in here. You're delaying our tickets, and that's why. Because we are once again in complete opposite camps. Though I got to tell you, I had this sneaking suspicion in my mind that you were going to try to make a case for Latruska as opposed to the other two. And you know what? If you're out there, I think there are worse long shot plays than Latruska to run second. I think if you gamble that one of Monomoy Girl or Swiss Skydiver doesn't run a jump, Latruska is going to be the one that moves up in a second, and maybe you get a little bit of value in the exacta that way. But I just think Monomoy Girl's the class of this group. I think she's very impressive, and she's been running the same high-quality races every single time out. I just can't go against her in here. I respect Swiss Skydiver and everything that she's done. I think she's a very classy filly, and we're going to see her do a lot of really cool things this year. Hopefully she runs against the boys again. Just saying, Whitney at Saratoga, Ken McPeak, it's there. The handicap division's really lousy. You're going to want to run there. But for here, give me Monomoy Girl.
Yeah, I think we'll quickly I think the 3 can wire Latruska. And then he made sure to mention Irad. And if Irad is on the lead, Irad is a fan of Marshall. It'll take you a second to get there. I hope you do.
The Thundering Herd.
He likes to herd if he's on the lead.
Folks, JD Fox will be opening at comedy clubs near you once comedy clubs are allowed to reopen.
Oh, Arizona's completely wide open. I look at this. You're saying, okay, the distaff happened. Yes, it ran. It was Swiss Skydiver's 9th race of the year, and Swiss Skydiver stumbled out of the break. I'm willing. You're saying, and this was very interesting of you, in terms of being willing to put a line through a race. You don't seem to be willing to put a line through that specific race. Do you have any other reasons? Okay.
Not completely. And I don't put as much stock in the 9th start of the season kind of thing, because Swiss Skydiver's shown she's that kind of horse. She's a throwback. She's not going to be hurt by running that often. Now, they did give her a little bit of a break before running in the Beholder Mile, but that was more strategic than anything else because they hadn't given her one. She hadn't needed one. I just don't think that's a negative. I think that, yes, Swiss Skydiver didn't break particularly well. Also not crazy about the ride that day. Robbie Alvarado made a very big middle move down the backstretch. And I know Swiss Skydiver isn't necessarily a closer per se. You go 46 to the half, 109 and 4. That's going to set up for a closer to pick up the pieces at least a little bit, right? I think if you're ever going to find out if that horse can rate, that's when you do it. But instead, made a big middle move, flattened out. Between that, me not necessarily subscribing to it's the 9th start of the season thing as much as you did, and just thinking Monomoy Girl is a world-class horse that's going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer, I got to go there. I can't go too deep. I think Monomoy Girl's usual race beats Swiss Skydiver in here. And at some point, you got to take a stand in that regard. You took a stand. You just went the other way with it. And I think either way, this is how you need to attack this race. If you include both of these horses, that's burning money, and you're just hurting your own price, unless you're taking some insane stand in some other race. And I don't think Engage is an insane stance because he's going to be the second or third choice. I'm talking like singling a 20-1 shot insane and wanting to make sure you get home. Now, we disagree there, but one thing we agree on, that's a really good race, and I'm looking forward to watching that this afternoon. Hopefully you all are too, and hopefully, regardless of which ticket of ours you prefer, you're alive going into race number 12. This is a starter allowance event, and JD, you had mentioned that you expected some alteration to my ticket once news of a scratch in the second leg came out. I got to tell you, I thought about hitting the all button here when I was constructing my ticket, because this is a wide open race. Number one, pick up the phone, is the 3-1 morning line favorite, but she's taking a big step up in class. And it's not like her buyer speed figures dwarf those of her competition in here. She does draw the rail, which was not good yesterday. Yesterday, from what I was seeing, at least, a couple of races, you wanted to be outside at Oaklawn Park. I don't think that's a positive. Now, does that mean she can't win? No, but it does mean that 3-1 hits me as a little bit of an underlay. The question is, if you don't like that one, where do you go?
I had told you we were going to have a first on this show.
Hit me. A $1 ticket. Okay.
$1.
So you remember when I said that if you had a bizarre stance elsewhere, maybe you use both horses in there? Well, I don't know if I would call this a bizarre stance because I used number 11 Flatoya going first off the claim for a very good barn. 12-1 on the morning line, I could see it. I could see somebody doing that and just trying to maximize value off of the two big horses, especially if you've got confidence in Flatoya. JD, why do you like this horse so much?
Well, really, I don't think the trip last time was great. Kind of tried to race up to the lead between horses. Didn't seem comfortable with that spot. I do actually like this horse being outside of everybody else because this horse does not like to run within the friends. The horse kind of likes to throw the head around a little bit. I think Arrieta can get this horse focused being on the outside draw and just going to the lead. And that's something we saw with an inside draw 2 back where coast to coast at the $10,000 claiming level that got, and obviously this has been a claim box favorite because was in the Diodoro barn, was in the Broberg barn, and now goes to the Matthews barn. And those are 3 of the best barns you're going to see at Oaklawn in this kind of company, running line starter allowance claiming company. So, I do think Flatoya can be the speed here. There's some other speed signed on, the 7 Frills, the 9 Ska Mania. I don't see them as cheap speed. I kind of see them as cheap speed. I think really when Flatoya gets the lead, Flatoya wins. When Flatoya doesn't get the lead, Flatoya doesn't win. But I don't see away from the outside draw that Arrieta does not find the lead with this horse. 1 scratch in the race, the 8 Sweet Tatum, that doesn't change the complexion of the race 1 iota for me. So my thought here is this. I'm playing a $1 ticket. I'm going to punch it 5 or 10 times. That's my best way to maximize value on today's card.
Fair enough. Now, I mentioned that I considered using the all button in here. If that's what you do, given the scratch of the 9 horse in race number 10, it's 4x2 by 1x10. It's a $40 ticket. Now, I'm not going to do that because my thinking is, with the way I structured my ticket, I want to enhance value on Monomoy Girl, who's going to be odds on. So what I did was I constructed a ticket based around my opinions and the fact that I don't like the morning line favorites in either of the first 2 legs, to where if Monomoy Girl gets home, even if that happens, this pick 4 could pay $100, $150. And on a $30 ticket, I've turned Monomoy Girl from a sub-even money shot into 3-1, 4-1. Not sexy, but the math checks out. Now, if you throw the 9 out, it is now a $20 play, and that's probably what I would do. I still went fairly deep in here. I used pick up the phone defensively just in case the track changes from day to day, but it's not like I've got a ton of confidence in that one. My top selection is actually number 4, Ragatag Tag, who's another popular horse at the claiming box. Looked really good last time out, albeit against a far weaker group. A 71 buyer speed figure in her first start since January. Goes first off the claim for Lynn Kleberad, but has run pretty much the same race for a lot of other different barns. A horse that has some speed, but doesn't necessarily need the lead to run well. You mentioned, JD, a lot of cheap speed in this race. I tend to agree with you, and I think Ragatag Tag may very well be the horse that sits in that first flight and gets that cushy trip as the early speed horses begin to fade, turning for home. 1, 4, 7, 10, and 11 for me. I'm 5 deep. Really hope I am deep enough to be able to provide some value in here. And I'm using some horses that might be mid prices and are able to bump this ticket and value up a little bit. Again, It started out as a $30 ticket. It is now a $20 play because horse number 9 is out of race number 10. JD's ticket, meanwhile, just $1. $1. Find 4 quarters, go to your ADW, and play it. Now, it's a lot going on today here in the world of thoroughbred horse racing. Great card at Keeneland. Great card at Oaklawn. JD's still coming down from everything that happened on the day 2 of the championships at Royal Randwick. JD, your final thought.
My final thought on today's show is going to be pretty simple. Oaklawn is not going to upgrade from muddy. Just looking at the track feed, race 1. And race 1, maybe this is a portent. I don't know. Favorite over second choice, over third choice, over fourth choice. That's a little creepy.
Yeah.
Race 1 of a day. I don't know. Last night was crazy at the championships. It was chaos. It was, 3 of 4 paid. But there was, the favorite in the second choice in the race was alive, single ticket winner for the pick 4. Even the favorite in the race, there was only like 4 live tickets, would have paid like $4,000 on a 20-cent base wager. I don't think we're going to have that crazy a day at Oaklawn given the track condition and given the horses. So it may seem bizarre that I had a $1 play there, but it's one of those cases where given the circumstances and how I feel, I think it's going to be formful, especially in those first 2 legs from what I see. And my best way to do value is, spend $5 or $10, play that $1 ticket and hope the 11 goes coast to coast like I expect. Now, the last time I singled a major long shot who wore a saddlecloth 11 at Oaklawn, it did not go well for me. So I'm hoping it goes a little better today, Andrew.
If you're unfamiliar with that reference, watch our best of show from last year. It is one of the worst beats I have ever seen. And for as much crap as we give each other, that was brutal. That was absolutely terrible. Now, to be fair, I did include one of my worst beats ever as well on a horse in Australia that looked like he couldn't lose with 50 meters to go. Still have that fresh in my head. That pick 4 paid $2,000, something like that. Yeah, was pretty pissed. Now, as far as my final thought goes, I did sort of, I didn't spoil my final thought because I was going to go on a rant about Concert Tour, and I did that earlier in the show. Mine is, if you like what we're doing here, let us know. This is a lot more fun when people are able to get involved, say the things that they have on their minds from a handicapping standpoint, and go from there. There's a reason a bunch of other outlets go live as well. There were a couple of different reasons that we decided to eschew our usual Thursday night taping and go live on Saturday morning. Those reasons have all sorted themselves out, so we're all good there. But if you like what we're doing, let us know. Subscribe to our channel, send us some comments. We're both very accessible via social media. Let us know what you like. Let us know what you don't like. Just be respectful. And we'll obviously take everything that we hear into consideration. And we hope that you liked today's live edition of Champagne and JD. This is yet another show that does not end with a negative thought. I was going to end it with a negative thought. I didn't. What's the streak now? 3 or 4? We need to update the thing like X amount of days without a workplace accident.
But I also think it's the first time you swore on this show, which is delightful as well.
No, it's not. I swore in my Tom Van Meter rant.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. That in both instances, I think it's justified, albeit for different reasons. So on that note, we're going to close the family-friendly edition of Champagne and JD. You can follow JD on Twitter at @HorseTickets. You can follow me on Twitter at @AndrewChampagne. Cheap plug. You can also follow me on Instagram at @128winners. Looking for some more followers there and looking for some more ideas on fresh content that you may want to see delivered through that medium. But for my co-host, JD Fox, I'm Andrew Champagne. Thanks so much for spending part of your Saturday morning with us, or if you're watching this later in the day, part of your Saturday afternoon. Be safe, have fun, cash your tickets, and JD, hit them.
Stay off the beaches.
Have a good day, everybody.